What's going on, guys? It's Madman Plant, and welcome to another live podcast. I love doing these Wednesday night lives at 8 just because it makes it a lot easier for me to do the podcast and being live. Everybody get to experience it at one time. Lately I've had some really great conversations and I've been able to help open up the eyes of some of our viewers and especially some of the people that have been on our show. Sorry, my voice is a little raspy. I was yelling at soccer practice since I teach my son's soccer team. But one of the values that I love is the feedback that I get from people, and how most people on our platform have never told their story before, and the power of story. As a production company and as a person that specializes in storytelling for a lot of different businesses, organizations, nonprofits, stuff like that, your story is your forefront of who you are and what makes you you. And it's probably the most vital thing about you. It's the biggest selling point when it comes to the law of attraction and being surrounded by the right people, like-minded people. And then also elevating yourself, taking yourself to that next level through self-development, through self-education, understanding, and community. We really take ourselves to a next level. And I want to share the screenshot with that I just received earlier today. I have another um, person that's going to come on to the show. I'm not going to say their name yet because I didn't get an okay from them, but I just want to share the message. And it says, Melissa, this is Grownomics' wife. He's our guest tonight. I can't wait to rewatch this. I was sick when you were actually live. I relate so much on this topic, and hearing you speak about it has really helped me feel not so alone on here. I'm in the growing community, and I've never felt comfortable to share my story with Instagram, but hearing you do it makes it not so scary. Thank you for all that you're doing. You really are going to help a lot of people. Have you ever thought about doing this as a profession? And that is awesome. And to get that type of feedback from a guest and then have them being recognized is really what this is all about. It's using real people's story, real voices, and really putting a narrative on what we got going on. Now, tonight, we're going to be diving into an early childhood experience from a life of seeking safety to understanding within a family environment that became a sanctuary during vulnerable times. We're going to hear about profound influence of sibling, the deep emotional impact of loss at a young age. Grownomics has become a great friend of mine and somebody that is also helping us out on the Madman Plant. Um, he usually is doing our modding, but tonight I have my great friend Crimson with me. He's going to be doing it for us. But without further ado, I want to bring on Grownomics. So welcome to the show, my dude.
How's it going?
How are you doing, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing really well, except my raspy voice is kind of fucking with me a little bit. But other than that, I'm really excited. I'm not gonna lie. Today, I even Crimson called it a little bit earlier. I was definitely feeling a little bit off today. You know what I mean? I was kind of in my head yesterday, so I'm really excited about this conversation because whenever I'm talking in the community, I always feel better. Because I myself, just like everybody else, I'm not perfect, and I have my own situations and things going on, and believe me, my own battles. Being here with you, having you on, it makes me feel really, really good, and I just really can't wait to dive into your story. For those that don't know, me and Grownomics met each other in Arizona earlier this year for the first time. And he was the only guy to sit there and watch every single podcast until it was his turn. He literally watched all of them. And I think there was like 8 or 9 of them at little secret gardens, little OG secret gardens, right? Is how they
Yes.
okay. And they are great. Valerie and oh my
Dan.
god, right?
Dan.
Damn, I thank you. Dan are wonderful people. We spent the first 2 days with them, and they were just phenomenal. The hosting, everything. So, I just grilled your wife the other day, so now it's your turn.
Yeah.
Mainly, I really appreciate you a lot. And for those that don't know Grownomics, he's an awesome guy. You're a father, you're a husband, you're in the gardening community. You're really about, what you say. And I really like, who you become, from things that we've talked about. And that's what I want to recognize, that a lot of times when we talk to these people, we're not talking about who they used to be, talking about who they are today and the value of life, evolution, and really moving forward. So, with that, let's go into your childhood experiences. I think this is a lot of where it started. Share the early influences in your life that shaped your understanding for family and safety.
Well, I just want to start by saying I was adopted at a very young age. I didn't find out until I was probably about 5 years old. But when I was adopted, I just want to start by saying I was adopted because my biological father had broken about three of my ribs. He cracked my skull and broke my femur. So it became a very serious case and everything. I almost died. Luckily, I didn't. So the mother that I know was running a foster home at that time and was kind enough to take me in and raise me. She had she had three kids of her own, and then three that she adopted, including me being one of them. When I had first got to the home, I had instantly, as far as I can remember, I instantly became best friends with my brother, her son Adam. We ended up sharing a room together and everything, and he became my first best friend in life. Really, somebody I could connect with and share everything with. And yeah, he was really my first influence in life and first person that I looked up to. Um, but unfortunately, we had a lot of things going on during that time that I didn't know. My brother had muscular dystrophy, and for those that don't know what that is, that's a disease that eats at your muscles very slowly. Um, it's a terrible disease. Um, but I was so young, I didn't know that. So when I was about 5, almost 6, he ended up passing away, and I wasn't sure what was going on, because I'm so young. But I did, I shared a room with him. I talked with him every day. He was in a wheelchair right before he passed away. So every morning I would get up and we'd have this little crank arm that would pick him up out of the bed. So it was like really exciting every morning just to like help my brother and just spend time with him, help him get out of the bed, put him in the wheelchair. So he was really my first best friend and influence in life, I would say,
Yeah,
when it comes to family.
I can kind of see that because you're coming from this area of uncertainty where you have no protection and no safety. And then I think, psychologically, you must have found deep comfort in providing that to somebody else who truly needed it. Obviously, he can't fend for himself in a lot of ways that we can. So, you being able to provide that safety, pick him up, put him down, get him in his wheelchair, help him out throughout the day. Um, what was it like growing up in a home that turned to a sanctuary for you, especially during such a vulnerable time?
Um, I mean, it was really great at first. Um, there's a lot of things that I don't remember in my childhood, and I think it's because of things like that. Um, yeah, it's pretty much after that happened, there was a lot of dark times. Things kind of started going downhill. after my brother had passed away, I think I think my mom didn't get the right. She didn't ever talk to anybody about it, and so things kind of got really chaotic in the house. There was no more and some abuse going on, and I think it's just from not her talking to anybody about it and just having to keep going on in life. That was her only son, so it things got really dark after that for me. Yeah.
So now this is the same time that you received the cracked skull and the broken femur as well. Is this happening all at the same time, or?
So that had happened after that. So when I had gotten my cracked skull and broken femur, I was only 6 weeks old. It took, I think, I don't know how long it was till I was able to be released, but I think it was at 3 months old. I was good enough to go to a home, but it took a full 3 years to finalize the paperwork and go through with the adoption.
So, okay, so when you were abused by your father, that's what got you into this system
Yes.
that met Adam and your new family, right?
Yes.
Just to catch everybody up, because I'm trying to catch up on the timeline. So, with that being said, do you understand like the scenario of how you got the cracked skull and the broken femur? Like, what was actually physically done to you?
From what I was told and what I understand, no. As far as I know, it's just they told me that my father was just he's a very angry person and I would cry a lot. And so from what I understand, he kind of took his anger out on me.
No, that kind of makes sense. And I definitely understand um the concept of the crying. I don't understand and I don't condone the abuse at all. You know what I mean? My kid cries all the time, and not all the time do I enjoy it, but that um what has that led up to so far? Like with like role models and male figures in your life. Have you always like worried about further stuff like that, like attacks, or do you just think of it as something that was done and you've moved forward from that?
It took me a long time to understand that I I kind of just um, I just kind of took it as it's just that's part of life now. Like unfortunately, things like that do happen. But at a very young age, growing up, I did not understand that at all, and it took me a very long time through trial and error to think about it and really understand and accept that.
So with your relationship with your brother Adam, how did Adam's spirit and challenges influence your perspective on strength and vulnerability?
Just the fact of seeing him having to struggle every day and still be happy every single day, happy to just be here and just have, and just happy to talk to me and just to see somebody that's going through something like that. It's to still, be happy every day and just loving. That's to me was very motivational and just like, wow.
I definitely can sense that, because I feel like with him there was a safety. You knew that there wouldn't be any abuse. There would just be love, and there would be Adam himself. Talking about a little bit about losing the sibling at a young age. Obviously, it was incredibly impactful on you. Can you describe how like the loss affected your childhood and your emotional development?
Yeah. So, at first I was very confused with what's going on. I'm going to school. I'm starting to go to school at this point. I come home and my brother's not there. They even debated during his funeral if they even wanted to bring me to his funeral because it was an open casket. And my mom at first had said no, but my dad said yes, that I needed to because of, having a relationship with him and I needed to understand that. So I was confused at first, but I remembered when I going to my brother's funeral and seeing him with the casket open and just not really understanding what was going on and seeing all these people. During that time, I think it was just a mix of not understanding why my brother is not here and why we're all here for him and he's just laying here asleep. Now, my brother was very into NASCAR, like a diehard NASCAR fan. So it was really cool what we did for his funeral. His casket, we ended up doing his favorite NASCAR driver on his casket,
That's cool.
and we took him on our local racetrack and did a couple laps with him. So I got to be in the car behind him in the lead, going across, doing a couple laps with him in the casket. But after that, it really confused me and it caused a lot of anger. And because my mom ran a foster home, she tried to bring in another young boy around my age, thinking it would help, and I ended up hurting this kid every single day out of anger. And I mean, like, I would have him face to face, and I'm just bashing my head into his head over and over again, just screaming. And they had to end up removing him from the home, and my mom ended up not doing that anymore. I ended up putting my head through my window inside my bedroom because I seen him outside playing with a toy that I wanted, at 6 years old. And it just started just building up and not knowing where this anger is coming from.
So, with that being said, what is going on in your world around you at this time? Like, what does your life look like on a daily basis? What are you doing? Are you in school? Are you by yourself a lot?
Yeah, so at this point, I'm going to school every day, but now I'm having outbursts in school now, and now I'm getting in trouble at school now. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I don't remember, but I used to walk to my school because I was at a school very close. So every morning I would walk to school, and I just didn't. It's not that I didn't want to learn. I just had so much on my mind that they thought I had a learning disability, but really it was just built up emotion. So I would go to school every day and just started having outbursts, and they tried telling me that it was a learning disability, without really examining what was going on deep down inside.
Now, did they ever correlate like all the trauma and the loss and anything to that, or did they just like assume that you were just like, misunderstood, or just going through anger? Like, are they tying it together for you? Like, obviously this person has gone through severe trauma, not only from just weeks old, but also losing a brother and then doing that.
Yes and no, but for the most part, I would say no. And the reason, the how they tried to handle that situation was by putting me on medication at a very young age, and without really trying to figure out what was going on. I was on probably 6 different medications at a very young age, and I felt like they weren't really no. Whenever I went to these, I started seeing a therapist too at like the age of 7, and every time I would go, I would never have a word to talk or explain exactly what was going on. A lot of times, my mom would just say, this is what he's doing at home. These are the type of outbursts, and I would never. I would always just feel like a guinea pig, and they would just give me these medications and go, here, you need a mood stabilizer because you're having these outbursts. And I would, as I got older, I never been a fan of medication just for that reason. So that's kind of how they dealt with it.
Yeah, when I was younger, I was very hyper, and they put me on Ritalin, Concerta. I never was on Adderall, but I was on Visine, which is kind of like the same thing. And it just kind of made me a zombie. And it worked for them, but it wasn't working for me. And I actually took myself off of it, much like I'm sure you did at some point, where it's like, no, I just this isn't me. Like, I'm becoming a zombie or sedated, And I think a lot of the time, especially in today's world, when parents don't know how to deal with their kids, well, let's put them on medication. Let's get them, numbed up. And I think the biggest thing is, you need to be expressive. You need to be able to talk. I feel like during this time at a young age, you're like, I don't even know how to explain why I feel angry. And, I as a person, will have that too. Everything will be fine, and I'll just be like very irritable or very angry or get upset, and there's nothing wrong. I'm just going through emotions, and I'm not exactly sure why they're happening. Now, you mentioned that an incident that resulted from unresolved anger. What insights did you gain about yourself from that experience?
Um, I mean, it took me a very long time to gain any kind of insight because I never, anger, it's always been a struggle for me for anger. So, I'm not really sure how to answer that one. I'm trying to think. Sorry. Um, yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that one.
No, it's okay. The biggest thing is, what did you feel like you were gaining at the time? Obviously, your life's in kind of like a chaos. You have a lot of these emotions and these things that are going on in your mind. You're young, you don't know how to express them, but as we get older, clarity is always starting to set in. So, at this young age, what are you starting to think about life and realize about life and your anger, per se?
At that point, I'm just thinking that life is like this, and people are like, at that point, I'm just thinking this is a normal thing in life, and how we handle things like this is normal, yelling and screaming now, and people just dying. So to me, at first, it became a normal thing. Um, I just thought that was normal, and it wasn't until I was at other people's houses or out in public that I realized that it's not.
Now, were other people's households like yours, or when you said you realized it wasn't, did you start to see like, oh, like Timmy's family doesn't act like this, and Johnny doesn't do this, and you know what I mean? Because
Mm.
I think when you get older, as you're in school and stuff, you start to see different lifestyles. As a young person, how are you realizing that this is wrong, or this is I wouldn't maybe say wrong, but inaccurate for what maybe should be happening in that household?
Yeah, so like for example, like I said, when I would go to other people's houses and see how their family is, that's what really made me kind of start to realize like, oh, your mom doesn't hit you with this, or you don't got this going on, like, okay. But that's what ultimately made me want to be around people like that too, is because I had that at my home. So that's what kind of made me want to have friends like that with normal lives and everything, because at my house I didn't have that at all.
Now, as we move further into your childhood, as your life's transitioning, you're starting to move back in with your father, right?
Yes.
And
So
how did that change your influence and your personal struggles?
so the reason why I ended up moving to my dad's was because my mom ended up getting breast cancer when I was around 12, 13, and she got it pretty bad. She ended up getting chemo and radiation and almost dying from it. And so she couldn't take care of me and my sister. So I went to go live with my dad. And originally, my mom had moved me out of my dad's neighborhood because it was starting to get a little crazy. So by this time, where I'm almost a teenager and I come back to my dad's, now the neighborhood's a little wild and everything. And, I got all this anger built up, and I get put with my dad, and I really like the area because I'm around people that are a little more like me, and got issues as well. But it also caused other issues because they are like me. They're hotheads, and there's people that that don't know how to control themselves and are out there that just want to mess with people and everything. And so I moved to this neighborhood and I get picked on a lot, like really bad. And um, the school too was kind of crazy too. Fights every day. I kind of liked it. I became really attracted to chaos, and that's one thing that I think I gained out of this was I'm very attracted to chaos and like fighting. I became like I really liked it. So, but growing up in the neighborhood that was like that, it really just made things a little intense. But it also like helped me get my anger out, but it wasn't good. So I would get picked on a lot and messed with. I'd come home crying because I was just so mad that I was like ready to really kill somebody, and I was okay with it. Um, so it kind of made things a little worse. And eventually, once I became an adult, I eventually did how to get out. I had to get out of there because there was just people were getting stabbed. Like we're teenagers in high schools and people are dying. I can't tell you how many times we had to give a moment of silence before our Pledge of Allegiance. And I just thought that was kind of crazy. And so I knew by the time I hit an adult, I had to get out of there, or else it's just not going to be good with my anger. I'm going to end up hurting somebody, or I'm going to get hurt.
Well, not only that, but you're seeing on a day-to-day base what you're trying to escape, which is that rage, that aggression, that kind of broken home type thing, and it's being like force fed to you. I will say though, I've never been in a school where we had to do a moment of silence every day for a child dying. We've done a moment of silence just after the Pledge of Allegiance. But that is a very interesting, and this is all in South Dakota. That's all this is happening. Um, and w- like, what is your dad doing? Like, where's your dad right now? And are you guys fighting? Are you worried about your head being smashed again? Like, what's going on with that?
No, my dad's always been a pretty cool guy. The only time he's always been really cool. I've never really fought with him. The only time I really fought with him is when he found out that I smoke weed. That was like the only time that me and him really had a fallout. And so he's always been pretty good with me on that.
Now, why weed? Why is he flipping out on you?
Um, you know, this is him and my mom are like that, but my mom's a little more like anti-weed, and it took me a very long time to understand it because it used to make me mad. Like, why do they not understand it? Like my mom, she like if you have a cigarette, she won't let you come on her property. Like that's how strict she is. So like weed is like anti, like it's gonna kill you. She tells me all the time, it's gonna kill me and do this and that. So her and my dad are like that, kind of. Not so much my dad, but he's still anti-weed, big time. And that's always kind of been an issue with me because that's been the only thing in my life that has calmed me down instantly, because I've always been on these pills, and you take a pill, you got to wait 20, 30 minutes for it to kick in. When I'm raging, I don't got 20, 30 minutes to sit down and wait for a pill to kick in. I can go hit a bull really quick, and all of a sudden I'm back down to earth. I reevaluate myself, and I'm like, okay. So when I discovered that as a teenager, like, wow, okay, this really does help me, I fell in love instantly. I was like, okay, finally something, but I was shunned upon in my house. They made me feel like I was a bad person for smoking weed, and that, I'm going to go to jail and all these things. So I always had to hide it and be very discreet about it. And that's the only thing, that was a big thing growing up that I wish it was, at least a little less strict on.
Yeah, well, as a business owner myself, I can't tell you how many times I've been criticized and told that I would be a lot more successful if I just didn't smoke weed, and that I have a kid and I'm 35, and aren't you a little old to be smoking every day? And it's like, no, not at all. This works for me. This is exactly why I would be smoking every day, because of its benefits. Because, like you said, I get very irritable for no reason sometimes. I'm not always the funnest person to be around. I'm working on it. I'm not perfect. But when I like early day, was doing soccer practice, and then Lacey wanted me to stop by Petco. I kind of like blew up a little bit. I was like, I got a podcast. I'm trying to make sure I got organized. I don't want to be late. Blah blah blah. And then I hit my one hitter, and I was like, fuck it. I'll go to the pet store for you. I'll go pick this shit up. It'll be fine. You know what I mean? But for that minute, I was in like the turmoil, and like you, within just like a couple minutes, clarity, resolution is coming back in, and it's one of the biggest things that we struggle with is the regulation of control, especially emotions. I'm like you. I could go 0 to 100 real fast. You know what I mean? But it's like you got to stop and you got to think about what's more important and what the value and what's really going on. And there are a lot of times where I'm thankful to have Lacey because I would just go off the hinges. And then it's like her, she if you think I'm bad, wait till you see Lacey. Like you don't want to mess with Lacey. I know I'm the nice guy. Okay, Lacey is like you got the good cop and you got the bad cop. Lacey will lay it
Right.
on time. What's really funny about Lacey is we used to shoot MMA like photos for Bellator and all these different fighting events. And the fighters would contact our company after the fight, like demanding the photos. And Lacey would respond to all of them. And half of them would apologize and say they didn't know it worked like that. And they're so sorry. They didn't mean to come off rude. They just wanted their photos. You know what I mean? So she's got just some fierce. I'm not throwing you out of the bus. I'm putting you on top of it. She said, I'm throwing
Right.
you under the bus. So let's talk about marijuana. Like, when was the first time you tried it, and how did you start knowing it was going to work for your emotions?
So the first time I had tried it, I was probably around 13, almost 14. Now we had just moved to Hemet, California to get out of San Diego and all that craziness. And that neighborhood was pretty wild. And on my way to the bus stop, there was this guy, Kenny, who would smoke every day out of an apple. And he kept telling me, hey, man, here, here, here. But, growing up, it was put in my head that that is a drug and it's
Yep.
so bad, this and that. So my first time trying it, I was scared. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I don't know, how am I gonna react? And plus, I'm an angry person too. I know this at this point. What if this makes me more angry? You know what I mean? So I was scared at first, and when I first smoked, it brought me that happiness that I've always felt like I have deep down inside me. And so I think that's why I fell in love right away. It wasn't until probably I don't know, half a year into smoking that when I was smoking, or I wasn't smoking, I was sober at one time and I had gotten really angry, like walked off and I smoked and I instantly calmed down and I was like really evaluating myself and I was like, okay. It was at that moment I realized, wow, okay, this is what I need. So I just made sure I always had some with me just in case, but I also had to hide it at the same time because I wasn't allowed to. So it was like one of those things.
Yeah, when I first started smoking, um, so I'm much like you. I was raised in the belief that drugs are bad and that weed would destroy your mind. See, before I actually spent 2 days in jail for speeding, I used to want to be in law enforcement, but then I didn't want to ruin people's time like mine. Like I was going. I mean, yes, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I was doing 107 and there was nobody on the road. I mean, it's dark, it's pitch black. I'm in the interstate, and just one cop, and I had to spend 2 days in jail because they were going to try to suspend my license for 9 months. And after that, I was like, "Well, I don't want to do this." So after that, I was working at Domino's at the time, and I knew somebody that sold weed, and I was like, "I want to try weed." And it really see what's cool about me is I lived like kind of like a very sheltered life in a sense where there wasn't a lot of danger, a lot of things were provided. So in a sense, very much the opposite of you, right? And it's kind of like almost kind of more like a fairy tale in a sense because it was just very well provided. Listen, I'm not rich or anything, but it was just well provided. And one of the things, oh man, hold on. Losing my train of thought here. Give me a second. One of the things was, like you, I started to assume the rest of the world, oh, all families are like this. But then as I went to school and I started to meet other people, I realized that not everybody has an equal opportunity when it comes to family or opportunity or finances or where you're from, and I started to understand, just much like with the weed community and the well, mostly like the drug community. And I was talking with Melissa, your wife, on the last podcast about this. Like, I started going to these events, right? As I started smoking, I met more people that started, smoking. And then I heard about festivals and I started attending the raves. So slowly, like, dabbled into it. But like you, I assumed that, oh, everybody's kind of like me. Everybody has fun and then they go back to their regular life. And then I started to realize that no, some of this can be a lifestyle for people, whether it's the rage or the violence or the drugs or, the lifestyles, right? And with that being said, it kind of opens your eyes. It's like, well, where would somebody get the mindset to get out of something like this when you're almost developed and being molded into your environment, because you got to survive, right? And you also got to live in your environment. So you're being accustomed to all these different elements of danger, of fear, and anxiety, and that's where I feel like with cannabis, in a way, that extra deep breath that it gives you, those that 30 seconds of instant, clarity. If you use it in the right direction, I feel like you get somewhere. I want you to talk a little bit about how you navigate the complexities of your like past traumas, and and the feelings associated with those.
How I navigate them.
Yeah, like nowadays versus then. So like, let's say today, I know what I'm getting an old feeling. What would I do today differently that would be constructive versus what you were doing back then?
Okay. So yeah, like I still struggle with it a little bit, but it is so much better today. So like like nowadays, like when I have my moments, how I handle them, I just go straight to my grow room, sit down, I smoke heavy, think about it, I calm down. That's usually my go-to if I can't stop it before that. Now, before I just snap instantly. I start yelling right away. I have destroyed my house I don't know how many times. I get to the point where I don't care if cops show up, like I want them to show up, shoot me, I'm done. Like I don't care. I'm full rage. I'm throwing everything across the room. Like I need to break something. No punching bag is gonna help. Nothing. It's full on. Like I'm done. um and all the neighbors can hear, like it's very embarrassing, honestly. But I've always handled things like that at a younger age, and it wasn't until recently, until I had my son, that I started to really calm down. And like I said, it never fully goes away. The only thing that you learn to do is you learn how to manage it better. And that's one thing that I've learned as I gotten older and I have my son now, because now he looks up to me, and just the little things of me getting irritated I see in him, and that's really opened up my eyes to how I need to be. And that's also has helped me, not just the cannabis, but my son has also helped me with that as well. So definitely a big difference with how I used to handle things. It's still a struggle, but it's nowhere near like I've got a nice house. I'm nothing's destroyed. It's so much better than what it used to be.
Now, cannabis played a significant role as far as your medication management of emotions of emotions. Um, can you provide? Hold on a second. Can you explain what it provided for you emotionally and mentally? Actually, no, you just talked about it. Let's talk about when cannabis wasn't enough for you, and used for your managing your feelings, and you first started dipping into methamphetamine.
Right. So when I started messing around with meth, I drifted away from marijuana because it's those are two different things and it's hard. I would still do both, but when I started doing meth, it actually brought out a lot of demons. It actually amplified my rage even more. I mean, I was already a angry person, and before that, I was already depressed, and that's the reason why I did meth. And with my anger built up inside, mixed with that, was a very, very bad combo. I think it brought the worst out in me a lot. Um, it was not a very good thing, and I knew that, but it was a very hard thing to get out of, because I've always known that I'm a cannabis person. I've always, had my cannabis. I've always been about it. So doing that was made me feel really ashamed. On top of that as well, because I didn't want anybody to know that I was doing that, because I used to talk bad about people that did that, and it wasn't until I started doing it that I realized that you can't be like that. You cannot predict the future and predict what you're going to do in life, because you can't predict life. And so during that time, it just, on the meth, it really brought a lot of anger out in me that wasn't me, and a lot of people saw that, and it it put a perception on me, and it used to make me feel really bad, and that's why I didn't go out much. I would always stay home. I didn't want to be seen on it, because I didn't want people to know. But it really just amplified my anger and just ruined my relationship very quickly. Eventually, I did lose my job, but I always maintained a job. But it was very hard. It just started messing with a lot of things. And as far as being a person that's already emotionally unstable and hasn't healed, it was a very ugly combination.
So talk about, for people like me who have never done meth, what is it? What does meth make somebody feel like, from your perspective, especially with the anger, like knowing that you're gonna get angry, that you're gonna go into rage, and you still want to do it. Talk about that feeling.
Well, I've always tried not to go to that feeling. So whenever I did meth, I felt great. I was happy. Everything was great. But if something went wrong, it was full blown, like, attack. It was not good. But that's why I got addicted, was because when I first did it, it made me feel really good. I had energy. I wanted to talk a lot, because I've never been a social person. So that made me talk a lot, and I liked being able to talk for once about a lot of things and be happy about it. So that's kind of, it made me happy for the time being. And then after doing it so long, it just, you start feeling like crap when you don't have it, and it just becomes a physical thing almost at that point, after long usage.
Yeah, and now this is all at the same time that Melissa's coming into your life, right? Because she's going through her addiction. Because when you guys first met, you weren't doing meth yet, so you weren't an addict. Because she talked in our podcast about some of your arguments that you guys would have would be the non-understanding of what it's like to be dope sick, or to physically need it. You know what I mean? Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. When she first moved in, I wasn't like that, so I didn't understand that. So I tried, when you first meet somebody, you try and be nice and do everything, and that's what I was doing. But I didn't really understand, like, when she would, say I'm physically sick, like I need it. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you can overcome this. Like, you don't need that. And it would always freak me out, because, like, it just, a lot of other things came into play too. She'd be in the bathroom too long. I wouldn't hear nothing, probably because she was nodding out, and I would just be sitting there like, "Are you okay? Like, are you breathing?" Or it would freak me out. And so when I started dabbling in the meth, I think because she was doing meth too, but also heroin, it kind of made me want to do it more, because now we got something that we can do together. So I started doing it more, but then that also was a bad mix, because the arguments and all that. But it took me a very long time to understand her being physically sick, and having to do whatever it took, or I don't care, I got to go get this now. Like, that was the biggest thing that I didn't understand, is why, like, the lying, and just choosing that over anything. That was the part that I had the hardest time understanding. And it wasn't until I got really hardcore into meth and I woke up one day and I couldn't go to work because I was angry that I didn't have it. It was that moment that I realized, wow, um, this is really no different than what I was talking down about. So I got a sense, a little taste of what that was like and a little self-evaluation.
Now is this before or after the raid on your house?
This would be before.
Right
Um,
before. So this is all happening at one time. Now, did you ever get to a point um where okay, so actually no, I have a better question. First of all, why is somebody doing heroin and meth together? What combined feeling is that then?
um, it's it's a mixed feeling because they're two different things, and sometimes you get two different. If it was just like she did the meth and I did the meth, I think it would have been better, or not better, but in a sense of understanding on that mindset and everything, because I feel like the heroin just made her a totally completely different person, and because I wasn't doing that, I had a very hard time understanding. I didn't like when people lied to me. That was the biggest thing, when people lied, and I just didn't understand. So it just, yeah, the difference, I think the difference was very big. I don't know, it was very tough, very tough.
Now, let's see here. The impending birth of your son was a significant catalyst for change. So this is all happening at the same time, and this is also where Melissa almost dies.
Yes. So when we had found out she was pregnant, I was still using near that end, but I knew that I couldn't be a good father while doing that. So during that time is when I started to try and quit, and that's eventually when I did quit. And when she had, you know, when Maddox was born, I was clean at that time, and Melissa was too, but I guess she was doing meth, here and there, I guess, and I didn't know that, but yeah, she, after giving birth, almost died, and that also sent a lot of emotion and made me think of a lot of times in our past when we would fight on drugs and everything, and that really, because we didn't think she was going to make it, and that really, all I could do was sit there and think about all the times that I was mean and we fought and everything, and so it kind of, it made us a little bit closer too after that. um but after that, it was either we get clean and we be good people and be good parents, or this is not going to work at all.
I think that's a wise thing because, you know, so I was adopted too from Romania. I don't know much about my parents. My parents who adopted me have met my parents because obviously I was in an orphanage, so they had to go to court in Romania and everything. This is in 1989. My mom was like a gypsy, and they actually had to track her down. She wasn't even in the same state, right? And it's very interesting, especially when a child comes into play, because you have two types of people, like yourselves, me and Lacey, and a lot of people, where you step up to the plate and you become the parent and you put a lot of those quote unquote foolish things aside, and you try to create purpose and value and everything like that, right? But then there's also a side where the child has no importance at all. And now the child is just here. You know what I mean? It didn't ask to be here, but it is. And it's just very interesting that when your own flesh and blood come in, especially like with addiction and everything like that, how just things just don't matter anymore. You know what I mean? So
Exactly. Like, Now I look at things like I got way too much to lose at this point to
Yeah,
even consider that.
yeah. No, I definitely agree with it. Too much to lose, and that song. What's that song? Don't take these beautiful things. You know, the one that's popular on Instagram. Crimson always does those videos with them where he's running and
Mm.
he's jumping. It's the same thing. If you listen to the lyrics of that song, he's talking about all the things that the Lord has given him, and that he is finally living a life that he wants and he likes, and he's begging the universe or whatever to not take these beautiful things from him. And I think, you know, when you really start to look at family and, you know, like a spouse or a husband or whatever, and or your kids, you know, I think that's where the development really comes, because you're really molding and conforming your life for the better, because you have to. You know, there's not really a choice, or you can really live a really shitty life, and who wants to do that?
Yeah, well, it started as I have to now I want to.
So talk about, just because Melissa said you quit cold turkey,
Yes.
right? How does somebody do that when obviously you're now in the drug scene with everybody? You got friends that do meth. How do you just stop something like that, that where most people can't?
Um, it's not an easy thing to do. I'll say that. Really, what you need to do, I mean, is to really just first cut cut off all ties and just isolate yourself. I had it took me about 7 days of just being sick before I started to feel somewhat normal. So I just stopped talking to the people that I can get it from and stopped hanging out with the people and just I still had to go to work though when I was sick, and because the people at work didn't know that I was doing that. So I had to play it off like, oh, I'm just not feeling good, and I ended up losing my job because I was getting sober. And it just that you got to really want it too, and you got to retrain yourself too, because also it's not just a physical thing. Like I had to relearn how to think normal and how to wake up and have natural energy now physically as well. So it it definitely took it was very hard, but it was very worth it, because I noticed after I put in the effort to really just cold turkey it like that and not have, because I didn't really tell a whole lot of people like, hey, I'm getting sober, I need support, because to me it wasn't really that uh, crazy hard. Like it was tough, like I said, the first 7 days, but I didn't really need like a whole support team, because once I'm done with something, I'm done with it. Like that's it. Let's go. Moving on to the next thing. Like once I had enough, I was like, yeah, that's it. But it's not the same for everybody. Some people do need that group support and everything. So uh, as much as I can give advice for that, it can't always be the same outcome for some people, just because not everybody can cold turkey it like that. But once I did and I realized my head was clear, I didn't realize how cloudy my head was, because while I'm high, I'm thinking I'm okay. I'm still, I got a job. I can somewhat like hide it when I'm in public if I go out in public. So it was hard, but I didn't realize it until I was sober. Like, wow, I feel so much better. Like, I think so much better, and I can't believe that I was thinking I was okay.
Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a talk with your dad about what happened, um, and everything that you went through?
My biological dad.
Yeah.
So Melissa is actually the one that found my biological parents, and she found them probably only about 4 years ago. My biological dad has yet to reach out to me. He knows that I'm alive and I've been trying to get a hold of him, but he has yet to this day reach out to me at all. I talked to my biological mother, and we had our moment on the phone about it. When we first called, it was kind of nerve wracking just to call and talk about something like that. So I've talked to my biological mom, and I'm still in contact with my biological mom now, and I have been for the past 3 years, but my dad has yet to this day. doesn't care to reach out or anything.
How does that make you feel?
It kind of makes me angry when I first found out where he was and who he was, because for a while I didn't have any information about them. I didn't know what they looked like. I didn't have their names. I had like their first and maybe last name, maybe. But as soon as I found out where he was, the first thing I wanted to do was just go find him, grab a baby doll, and just beat the crap out of him with, I'd be like, hey, you remember that baby you beat up? And then just take my, just start beating the shit out of him. That was the first thought. That was the first thing I wanted to do. But I've come to a more humble sense of, that's just the type of person he is, and I'm okay with that because I got my life and I become the person I am, and if he doesn't want to reach out, well, that's your that's your loss. So it's just unfortunate to me because growing up, I've always seen my friends that look like their parents, act like their parents, and so I've never really had that where I go home and see features on my mom or dad or anything like that. So it bugs me that I'll never get to know who my dad is as a person, not just looks, but like because I've always wondered, do I talk like him? Do I act like him? I don't know. So it does bug me a little bit that he's not man enough to at least admit that I exist and reach out to me and at least talk to me about what happened. So it does affect me. It does anger me a little bit, but I'm okay. I've accepted that it is what it is.
Now, have you like if you ever did meet him, would you forgive him?
Of course.
Like I guess that I'm like you. All I have is seeing in Romania when I was adopted, they just killed the leader, so they just opened it up to the United States for adoption. And like you, all I have on carbon paper are two names. You know what I mean? And I've always like dreamed of what that interaction was like when you met your mom for the first time. What was that like? Talk about the experience. Did you meet in person? Are these people like local? Or are they far away?
No, so I've yet to meet my mom in person. I have not met them in person yet. My mom is staying in Montana, I found out. And my dad, I'm not sure where he is. Last I heard, he was in Texas, but I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah. Now, with your mom, like, what was that conversation like?
Um, it was emotional, deep, but also awkward at the same time. Not that I wanted it to be, but knowing that this is my mom and I got so many questions and trying to connect. It's one of those things you don't know what to expect, especially after so many years. You don't you wonder how is this person gonna be? Are they gonna, I also had to tell myself my parents might be dead because up until I was, like I said, 27, I didn't even know if they were alive or anything because it was abuse case, they were not allowed to try and contact me at all, and they changed my biological name as well, so they couldn't even find me all these years. So it yeah, it's one of those things. It's mixed emotions, and you almost don't know how to handle it at first. And I'm I because I've had emotional uh, things happen in my life. I don't know how to be super close with anybody, so it's even harder for me to try and be like, oh yes, like lovey dovey. As much as I want to, it's super hard for me just because of everything and the fact of so many emotions going on, and it's just a lot all at once, honestly.
Then, do you feel like when you think about it all? Do you feel angry? Do you feel sad? Like, what's the emotion when you think about it?
Um, it's a little bit of sadness and anger, but it also makes me wonder if my life would have been completely different and me as a person completely different if things didn't happen like that.
Yeah, as being adopted, see, I was in an orphanage. So in the orphanage, it's a very poor place, and then they like change you once a day by diaper, and all the kids were like chained together, and there's no real interaction. And like you, it's like, do they do the most selfless thing, or you know is it condescending? You know what I mean? And it's just one of those things where you never know. But in I think your case and in my case, I think it worked out for the better. Most kids in Romania at that time would get old enough and they would just run away from the orphanage. So I would probably be living in like the sewers or the tunnels of Romania, doing something like that versus the opportunities that I have here in America. And I think one of the biggest things too is just because you're brought into the world with them doesn't make them your family. And I think one thing too about getting older is you get to start to fix these things that are problems, like the lack of support. When you're an adult, you can find new friends and do more things, and I really believe, and this is why it's so important, is the self development, is being able to be resourceful, and not only just for like materialistic items, but for network. One of my favorite quotes that I've talked about is by Russell Brand, and he said, he's I can't remember the exact quote, but I'll paraphrase it. He's saying that everything an addict does is irrational until you are inside the mind of an addict. And then you realize how helpless they really are unless there's a large and structured support system. Um, with you and Melissa and your close family, would you say that is like aided you as far as being able to move as quickly as you have in some aspects of your life?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Lacey, and some of my friends. It's just one of those things where it's tough because even with what I'm doing, right? We're on a 15-state, 12-month tour, but sometimes I just feel like a very small person. Like I'm just like I'm not even good enough. You know what I mean? And it's just one of those things where sometimes we're like Lacey's like I with everything that you're doing. I don't understand how you feel the way you do about yourself. But
I
sometimes I just feel like, in a way, I'm lacking something too, and I feel in a selfish but selfless way. There's a song by One Less Reason that I love, and it's called "Where Did You Go?" And I'm trying to get the band on the show because most of the songs are about the lead singer's girlfriend who commits suicide, and a lot of the songs deal about with mental health. And in the lyric, it goes, "When I was looking for a change in you, I found a change in me that I didn't see." And I feel like, in a way, by me going out here and telling people stories like yours, I, in a way, will fix what I feel like I'm lacking on the inside as well. And I think, in a way, a lot of times though, we all feel like we're missing something, or we should be somewhere we're not. One of my favorite scenes, um, which I'll pull up and I'll post on Instagram if you guys want to see it, is this bartender, and the bartender is like, imagine if you had everything that you wanted right now. He's like, you'd probably still feel the exact same way you do right this second. And I think we a lot of times, especially in life, I've been guilty of it too. We look for things that we think are going to like somehow magically make us better. And none of that exists. And I've been doing that for a long time too. Like if I only had this, or if I just did this. And I think it's a lack of confidence. And we talked about this on my millionaire mindset a couple weeks ago, which we're about to have another one, which is the imposter syndrome. And I think that you can also have that in your own life, being a parent, being a leader. And it's one of those things where you have to you have to own with what you have. And I'm trying very hard to eat my own words and to take my own strategies as I say them. But gratitude is a big thing, and I think you definitely have that, and a lot of my friends have that. And when you become appreciative of things that you have around you, I think that's when things really um, start to change. So let's talk a little bit about looking back on your journey. If you could, and ask Melissa the same question too. If you could go back in time, and I have a video that I made at 13 years old to my older self, which I was just given to me in December, which is me saying to myself, I make dreams happen. And there was a video where I was talking to myself. But if you could go back to your younger self and tell your younger self everything that's going to happen, the good, the bad, everything, would you allow your younger self to go down to the exact same path knowing what you know now, where you almost didn't make it yourself?
Um, Part of me wants to say no, but I'm gonna go ahead and say yeah, because without all, as much as all the craziness that I went through, that's kind of what built me as a person. So without going through all these traumatic things, I probably wouldn't have a sense of reading people well and things like that. But it also has its flaws as well. So, but I probably would put myself through it again. I probably wouldn't want it exactly the same because there's probably a few things that were just too much. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but fortunately, in this scenario, you have to go through the exact same thing all over. There are no exceptions. It would be everything again. But it's awesome that you said yes, because your beautiful wife's answer is also was yes as well. And I think that says a lot about your character and the fact that we can really learn a lot from these situations. I think one of the biggest things that I'm trying to learn, and there's a book that Lacey said I should read, which is how to stop worrying about things you can't control and getting on with your life or something like that. And I have a big problem with the past myself. I'm always thinking of all these different things, and it's like, those were years ago.
hmm
Talk
yeah, and I
about.
used sorry, I used to. I just want to say really quick. I used to look for things that I would think would make me happy as well. And recently, well, about a year ago, I used to do that. I'm like, man, I just need a bigger house. I just need more room so I can have more plants and I'll be happy. That's all. And it wasn't until I had all that that I realized, well, I have everything that I said that I wanted, but I'm still being the same person that I am. And that's when I realized that, well, I need to fix myself. It doesn't matter what I have. I can have everything in the world. And if you're not happy, none of that matters at all.
Yeah, and there's a voice on Instagram that brings me to my tears sometimes. And it's like it wasn't that how much the house cost; it was the people that were in it. It wasn't how long the ride to the vacation was spot was. It was the noises. And as we get older, just like the Any Given Sunday speech with Al Pacino, things get taken from us. We start losing things along the way, and it can bring you to your knees. Talk a little bit about your darkest day as an addict versus your brightest day to day. I'd love to understand more of the mindset of what you saw every day.
Um, let's see. Well, my darkest day, whew, I would probably say once I realized I couldn't maintain a job because of my drug use. That really made me feel super low because if I couldn't have that, I knew I was going to lose everything and I couldn't afford to do that. So I felt like if I were to lose everything, well, I might as well just go in a tunnel and just do this, So, my darkest, yeah, it is very tough. There was times I almost felt like I'm not going to be able to get out of this. Am I ever going to? Because I also enjoyed getting high. I also didn't want to quit. I was like, I like this. I like getting like this. There's part of me that liked it, but there's also whenever I would get really sad though on it, it would be extremely sad. I would bawl my eyes out and really contemplate life sometimes and just be so ashamed that I'm doing this. And there was a few times where I thought I'm too deep into this, like it I'm not gonna be able to get out of this. Like I don't know how I'm gonna have a normal life ever again. And I was almost okay with that. And now that I have really good days and there's times I sit back and I look at everything I have. I didn't have a car when I was on meth, nothing. So I always had to rely on like other things, and it it was just not the way to live. I didn't have running water in my house. I had to go get water next door. Luckily, my neighbors were just such great neighbors at the time, and I felt so horrible because it took them. They didn't know that I did drugs like crazy like that. They knew I had issues, and they had issues too, which made us bond together pretty well. But for a long time, I just hid that from them, and I just that they kind of helped me get through, to be honest, because they were so nice, and they would bring me. They knew I didn't really have family out here, so they would bring me to like their Christmas family, and bought me gifts. So I had gifts on Christmas, and knowing that I'm just at home getting high on meth and I feel like a horrible person, it just that really made me feel bad because I didn't like lying like that, especially to really good people that are want to help me. And especially if I can't give back like that during that time, it really bugged me, and it really made me contemplate who I was as a person, and just not thinking, I started to look like crap too, and I didn't like it. So I started to hate myself for that too. And my teeth started falling out, and a lot of people don't know this, but my teeth, my first front four teeth are actually veneers. So I had to get all my teeth replaced. I was super embarrassed about that. And now just sit back when I have like a great day where I'm, smoking my bowl. I sit back, I look at my house, I look at everything that I have now ever since I stopped doing that. And
Yeah.
that's what reminds me of what a great and best decision it was, not only for me, but for everyone around me and my family to stop doing that.
Yeah, and that's what I was mentioning earlier is like gratitude. When you become grateful for things, and sometimes I struggle with that because sometimes I'm very forward thinking, and I'm just like I don't have what I need, and I complain about that a lot, and I try to work on that because we do have what we need, and what we have coming is coming, and that's one thing I do love, that you see as a reminding moment every day when you enter your house, when you're at home, when you look around. And when we started our company, we were dead broke, and we only had one car. And then now we have multiple cars for ourselves, not multiple, but Lacey has her own car, I have my own car. Versus Lacey having to wait. Uh-oh, look at that guy. For those that don't know, sorry to break up the conversation real quick, but we have almost identical dogs and a lot of similarities together. Honey is actually underneath my feet right now, underneath. But both of our dogs are red-nosed champagne pit bulls. They both have socks. They both have white bellies. They almost look like, except for being male and female. But I have another question too. How do you support a drug habit like that? Like meth is apparently not that cheap.
It's yeah, it's a whole it's not easy. And I think back a lot too, because during that time I wasn't making a whole lot of money. I was actually pretty broke all the time. So the fact that I was able to pay rent and somehow get money for that too. Melissa also helped too. So she would like hustle in any way she can to try and get it too. And we also knew a lot of people that did it, a lot of old friends. So a lot of times it was a whole lot of asking for fronts and just doing what we could to do it. There was, and it's crazy that I think it's absolutely crazy when I sit back and think about, I'm like, wow, we made sure we had some every day. That's wild. Like, I don't know how we did it and maintained a life. It was very, very crazy. So a lot of times I think about that, it reminds me, well, if I can sit there and do that, then I can definitely do anything in my life that I want to, now that things are completely different.
Shit, you can be a millionaire and anytime soon. You save all that money up, just keep the same hustle as before. You know,
Mhm.
that's interesting though. You know, and it's funny. It's like not everybody has money to pay their bills, but they got money for weed and drugs and alcohol. You know what I mean? So with with that being said, did you ever feel like you would do something crazy, like rob a bank, or like have you ever done any like I was asking Case Study Labs, who who's also an addict as well. Have you ever done anything that you regret as an addict, like something that like okay, this is like I held an old lady up at gunpoint, like this is pretty fucking low, you know what I mean, like
Mm, I um
you don't have to say if it's too bad, but just
no,
so
because I can't really say, because I never really like, I never had the urge to rob somebody for it or anything like that, because I'm not that type of person. Even when I was on drugs,
well,
I
because you just had a lot of anger, so I was like, you have a lot of anger, you're raging, you need
but
your stuff.
I was ready to shoot somebody though. Like if somebody wanted some beef, I was like, or if, like, I was always waiting for somebody to try and steal something out of my yard so I could come out and put a gun in their face. I really wanted to do that really bad, and I was like, I always had guns around me, and I loved it. I just wanted, like, I was ready for war sometimes. I think that's the only time where I kind of got like what's up, like, so.
Well, when the end of the world comes, I'm coming over to you because you want war. And you got guns. I got some ARs too. That's interesting though. So, why did you want that type of confrontation though?
Because I was already, sometimes I would get amped up and my mind would be thinking about things like that. And then, you know what I mean? I'm thinking like, what if somebody, you know what I mean? Because I'm not watching TV. I'm
Is
high
it
on
the
meth. I'm just,
paranoia from the meth and everything? Like you're like,
yeah, I'm thinking about stuff like that. And then I start like almost like getting feelings from it, even though I'm just thinking about it. As crazy as that sounds, like I'm thinking about it so hard that it's almost happening, but it's not.
no, I believe that 100%. Mainly because if the movie that we were watching, I can't remember the name of it, but when the guy had multiple personality disorders,
Is it
um,
called Split?
he, probably
I,
it's where
he's got a bald head and he's like
he's like
super.
kidnapping people, and then he's like a woman too.
Yes, great movie. That's such a great movie.
Yeah, but just like that, where he needed the diabetes.
Yep.
There, I mean, like even with dreaming, I don't know. Some people say they dream, some people say they don't. With my dreams, I can actually feel things, smell things, I can touch things, like everything feels very real in a dream to me. So I definitely can see how with the meth and everything that's going on, like you're starting to believe that these things are happening. Have you
Yeah.
ever had like spiders, or ever were you ever like a guy that like constantly picked at themselves?
No, because even though I did drugs, I was always like, well, I'm not like them. I'm not like that. I would never like pick my face or be out digging in my fucking yard for nothing. I always tried to stay inside and not make it noticeable because I was so ashamed. So I tried everything not to be like that. And honestly, I kind of did good, other than the fact that I lost weight, and when you're on meth, you don't take care of yourself. So like things like, oh, I don't remember to brush my teeth or take a shower. I know that sounds pretty crazy, but when you're on meth, it's not the first thing on your mind. You're doing other things. So yeah, it definitely, yeah.
Now, when teeth start falling out of your head, is your brain going, what the fuck? Like,
D-
are you just like, fuck it, just gonna do some more meth?
Yeah, at that point, I just like you almost want to ignore it. You're like, "Fuck, I know this is a problem, but I'm gonna ignore it, and I'm gonna get high. Fuck it. They're already going, so fuck it." It was kind of the mentality.
Now, when we say that teeth are falling out of your mouth, like, like not obviously show me, but give me the example. Like, I'm taking a bong rib and then I cough and oh my god, a tooth is on my table. I go like this. Is that how it works, or like?
Not exactly. So like it just started eating away at the back of my tooth from a damage that I already had, and I think the meth just like amplified the process of it decaying. And so like it just started like coming through the front where it was a hole, and then next thing you know, like whenever I'd eat, like just pieces are starting to come out when I would eat, and it just yeah, it was all bad. It almost made me not want to smile because it was in the front of my teeth. So I would never smile. I didn't want to talk. I was super conscious about that.
Now, when I don't know if you were listening to the podcast with Melissa, but I was telling her about an event. There's a place called Jerry Garcia Farms in West Virginia on Jerry Garcia Lane, believe it or not. Anyways, I was on a bunch of acid and I'm walking around during this music festival. And there's this guy on one of the cabin steps and he's crying. Mind you, I'm on like 3, 4 times of acid. And I meet him and I start talking to him. And I'm like, why are you crying? And he said, I have no teeth. He's like, all the drugs they've taken my teeth. He's like, I have one tooth left. And he's like, I'm tired of people looking at me like a clown or like a monster. He's like, I'm not a monster. And he's like, I just want us to smile. And he's like, pretty much like, if I don't get my teeth back, then I'm just gonna kill myself. And and he's like pretty much saying that he's gonna give himself a year time. Like, how did you process that? Do you have the same type of thing where you're just like at such a low point, now your teeth are falling out, you just really thinking about ending it? Or in your case, you just didn't really care?
At the time, I just didn't really care.
It's so amazing. I mean, not to interrupt you, but it's so crazy. Like your own body is decaying and falling out, and yet the drug is just so much stronger. And then you quit cold turkey. Like, you know how like miraculous that is.
It is. It's hard too.
But you
It,
didn't quit for your teeth, but you quit for your family, your wife, your legacy.
yep.
Somehow, and that's what I guess what I'm trying to figure out with you is, where did that become more, because you're dealing with something like kind of like a force, it will take over you, and yet somehow you were able to push your mind back.
hmm
Did you
Uh,
describe that?
Once I realized that nothing was going to change and I was getting the same result, um, and things are just getting worse. That's when I just had enough. I was like, you know what? I know what I need to do, and if I don't do it now, then it's it's gonna be over.
Yeah, my
So
best friend, who I grew up with, I didn't know him at the time of his death. He died of heroin behind a dumpster. He was not a good person at the end of his life, from what I understand. They didn't even have a funeral for him, so I guess that goes to show. But it's one of those things where you just, I don't know. It's just strange. It's like it's almost like you went to another planet and lived a totally different life, and then you're like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to like Earth.
yeah, because like part of me knows that I'm a good person deep inside, and that wasn't me. So that's always been in deep down in my heart, and I known that. So I knew that I could get back to that. I just didn't know how to.
Now, what would you say to somebody right now who's just entering a situation like yours? What would be your advice to somebody like that?
Um, just really evaluate what you're doing, and I would not recommend that at all, but people are going to do what they're going to do, and sometimes people do have to experience it themselves. I had people tell me when I first started doing it, hey, be careful, this stuff's gonna grab you by the balls. And I was like, nah, I got self-control pretty good. Like I'm not gonna let it get out of control. So even myself had somebody tell me when I first started doing it, and I still being stubborn was like, no, I can control myself. But I'm here to say that I don't care who you are. It can get out of control very quick, as much as you don't think it is. It's it will take over. It will become part of you, and in the end, if there's nothing good that comes out of it, I have not one thing good did I get out of making that decision. I have nothing to show for it. There's nothing good I got out of it. So therefore, that is not a very like. It's just not worth it.
No, I definitely agree. It's interesting that we know so much about this, but yet we still get turned on to it. I definitely disagree with the fact that, like for instance, when I had my surgery on my back earlier last year, I didn't even take the pain pills. Now, granted, I also didn't feel any pain because of where they cut me. I guess they killed some of the nerve endings because there's parts of it where it's like numb. But it's interesting like how open, like, they're like, oh, do you have enough, or do you need more, you know what I mean, and how quickly something like a surgery, a foot, something like this, in a lot of different scenarios lead to an outcome like yours.
It
um
does actually. One of my friends that was rolling with me during all this, that's how he ended up getting addicted to meth. Was he had back surgery, and and this guy had a normal life, married, family, everything, had back surgery, got into opiates, and then it just led to meth, and that's it. It was really his story was really sad.
what would you say the similarities and differences between your and his stories would have been?
Um, I would say just having a normal life and then just not realizing getting sucked in so quick and then you're in the middle of it. You know, knowing that this wasn't you, would probably be, very similar. And I could kind of feel where he was coming from because I could tell that this guy didn't grow up like that. So,
Are there anybody in your meth community, if you will, that also made the same choice that you did, which is like life and opportunity and personal freedom?
um, not too many, and I'm not sure because I don't really talk to a whole lot of people anymore. You know, that still do it. If I do, it's because I'm finding out that they're getting sober, and that's something I'm always praising and encouraging when I see that.
Are there any things like that they're doing, like as far as getting sober? Like, are they going to like rehabs? Are they been in and out of jail for like treatment clinics? Like, how are a lot of these people finding sobriety?
So I'm having a lot of friends lately that personally want it, and then I've had a few friends because they've gotten with a loved one now who doesn't do that and wants nothing but the best for them, has really opened up their eyes to it. And then when I see them post about it, that's when I jump in and put my, hey, I want you're doing great, and I'm really happy to see, whoever's encouraging you to do this, thank them for me because I see it. And so yeah, a lot of it is most of it is just because of somebody else helping them and then them wanting it, but so support.
And I think that's awesome. What now? What the people that want it for themselves, obviously, and I agree with Melissa on this one. That the wanting to do it for a loved one is maybe not the best. The wanting to do it for yourself is the key. The people that want to do it for themselves, that you said you want to do it mainly because it lies right in here. You know that you're a good person, and that good person has conquered that demon. Are they saying the same thing, or what are their reasonings?
Uh, you know, I'm not sure, and I think sometimes the people that do want to do it on their own don't have that support, and so it's harder for them to just to just do it by themselves. And I agree, though. I think having another person too, or getting clean for another person, isn't necessarily the right answer. But if it could help you at least get that first step to open up your eyes, I don't necessarily see it being a bad thing, as long as you continue it. Like if things didn't work out, as long as you stick
That's
with
what
it.
I'm saying. If things don't work out, do you just, well, fuck it, she's not with me anymore, so I'm just gonna go back to my old ways?
I think it's very easy for people. Yeah, absolutely. I think people that get sober because of that are more vulnerable to go back to that right away if that didn't work out. But I wouldn't say it's like that for everybody, because everybody's a little bit different. But yeah, it would definitely. I think yeah, that would be a tough one.
Now, have you ever thought about it doing it again?
No, I actually I still talk about it to this day as like, oh yeah, I used to be nuts when I was on, and I'd tell like meth stories. I know that sounds crazy, but like at work, like sometimes like I'll tell like meth stories. So I kind of just talk about it as like a past thing. I don't ever think about doing it, and it doesn't ever cross my mind because I, like I said, I have way too much to lose now, and I know how my life was on it, and I don't ever want to go back to that.
You know, that's awesome because I feel the same way about cigarettes. I quit cigarettes a while ago, and every once in a while, when like you're passing by a restaurant or we're in Vegas, like the distant smell of a cigarette, it's kind of like the old muscle car smell, the gas and the exhaust and everything. You know, I do like that smell, but the smoking of the cigarettes and buying cigarettes. No, I mean I buy cigarettes for Lacey's mom all the time. You know, and I run up to Wawa, and I just no thought about it at all. And actually, I criticize her for it. You know, I'm like, you need to smoke more weed, not cigarettes. Smoke weed.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I agree. I smoked cigarettes myself for about 2 years, and I got sick of that too. I was like, you know what? These are not good for you. I'm already smoking weed on top of that. Yeah, I want to be healthy.
Well, this is the time of the podcast where I want to open it up to you and allow you to talk about anything that we didn't talk about or things that you know you wanted to bring up. You know, because I really like to, you know, do my segment and then really give, you know, my guest an opportunity of freedom, if you will.
Well, I guess the only part I could say I probably left out is I was sent to, I guess, when I was getting in trouble down at my dad's house, I was sent to I don't know what you would call it, but almost like a place for bad kids where they had like these different cottages. It was this place called Broad Horizons in Ramona, California. And well, I got sent to the mental hospital first because I had was freaking out, and
What's that
so
like? Mental hospitals is straight jackets and all quiet hallways and no talking, or
no, I mean it's not what everybody thinks, but like they have like these, it's like a facility or whatever. You got your little break room. Everybody has rooms, but you share a room with somebody. My first time there, I just didn't know what to think. It was scary. My second time there, um, was just interesting. I stayed calm the whole time I'm there, and a lot of times people were asking me why I was there because I was like somewhat normal or whatever. But um, they just treat it. You know, you wake up every day, you get a sheet of paper. How are you feeling, 1 through 10? And they ask you these questions, and then like maybe they give you these snacks, and throughout the day they try and keep you productive. Like, oh, go outside and do basketball, or and then they'll have like therapy. But I will say one time, they do have the fluffy rooms with the pads and everything, and they used to talk like, oh, if you get put in there and you still act out, you get what's called booty juice. And I was like, what's boot? I was like, what's booty juice? And the doctor comes in and gives you a shot in your ass, and you're out. And I didn't think that was real. And one time I was like, I was getting ready to get discharged, and I was like, I want to go in one of those fluffy rooms before I leave, just so I can say that I went in one. And but the only way to get put in one is to act out. So I pretended to act out, and I ended up working myself up so much from pretending to be that I ended up really getting mad and freaking out. And they put me in that room, and I'm amped up at this time. I really am like freaking out. And I'm bouncing my face off of the plexiglass square thing on the door, and they had this big arm that came down on the outside to hold it shut. And so I'm bouncing my face like, wah, screaming, and it's bouncing off the door, and they keep saying, "This is your first warning." I'm all, "Fuck you, blah, blah, blah." And third warning, here comes this doctor, sure enough, with a shot. Gives me a shot in my ass. Within 20 minutes, I'm out, and it took me about 3 days to feel normal after that.
Right as you're about to be released.
Yeah, and so then I go to get discharged, and I'm all happy. I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm gonna go back home. I've been here for 2 weeks. They said I was only gonna be here for 72 hours, and my dad shows up with my mom, and they're like, my mom wants to send me out of state to Ohio to like a juvenile facility until you're 18, and then you're released. And if it wasn't for my dad stepping in because he has half custody of me, he said, no, that's not going to happen. So that's when they sent me to that place I was talking about in Ramona. And so I didn't have to go out of state. And then they told me I'll be there for like 3 months. And of course I end up, freaking out. I can't be there for 3 months and not get mad, and ended up staying there for about 10 months. And I would refuse to take my pills because that was like a thing that they forced you to do. I would spit out my pills or hide them. That they had to give me pills that would dissolve on your tongue. So they would sit there, hold my mouth open with gloves, and they peeled this thing and it would go right on my tongue and dissolve instantly. Tasted like crap. So there was no way I couldn't not take my medication. But I ended up getting, yeah, it's just crazy. I was there for about 9 months, and it was just, yeah.
So it's like, is it like a prison?
Not necessarily. That place, like, they had cottages, so it was like one house where like everybody lived, and they had their rooms, and you were like on like a system where you had to be watched and taken to the bathroom, and somebody was there at night too watching us. And yeah, we couldn't do anything really until like our parents, until they felt like we were mentally good to go back home and live at home. We just stayed there.
Damn, dude, that's pretty gnarly. I'd never been in a mental institution before or anything like that. But it's kind of funny. They were like, "Oh, you kind of seem normal," you
Yeah,
know.
but it also makes you feel like you're crazy. You're sitting in
Well,
there and you're
you're in
you're
a
one.
fucking mental hospital. How much more crazy do you have to feel? I'm here, baby.
Yeah, because after a while you're like, well, why am I still here? Am I really crazy and I just don't know it? And, you start thinking all sorts of crazy things.
Like the Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, you know.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Well, I really appreciate you being on, dude. We've had a really great conversation, and this is really cool. I really appreciate the openness. I really value people being vulnerable and being real. Because with my SmokeBusters platform, it's all about breaking down the stigma of cannabis, utilizing real voices to tell stories. And apparently, from what Lacey was saying, and I'll have to look more into this, that I don't really follow politics that much. The whole legalization of federally legal marijuana rides on this election. And that's why, if that's true, that's why we need our voices more than anything. And it's getting everybody accustomed to it. We talked to so many people who have beaten cancer, walked again, survived tremor attacks, enjoy a quality of life and really be able to engage in a community. And what I see is a lot of negative, I see a lot of drama, I see a lot of hate. And the internet's just a nasty place anyways. But see, the thing is, as humans, we have the ability to be different. And it's one of those things where I'll be in a situation and I'll be like in my head, damn, you shouldn't act like that. Like you were raised better than that. Or damn, it's not cool. You should, not whatever. And it's just like that conscience that we have. And that's how we regulate this thing. You don't want the government and all this other stuff to be controlled, like where it's like medicine. And then we need the craft, we need the small batch, we need the home growers because These are the people that ultimately need it and are using it on a daily basis for medical purposes, to sleep better, to feel better. So, being as educative and informative and really not just being kind. There's a difference between nice and kind. The difference between nice and kind is nice. It's just being back and forth. Kind is where you can be constructive and get things done. Where you can be, share criticism. There's a lot of ways that we can learn together, and I just see a lot of hate. So I'd like all of us to change that.
Absolutely. And I think us coming together like this makes people realize that home growers like me and you are normal people and go through things like that too.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and everybody watching on all these lives and all these things, we're all a part of a story, and by being here, by being present, we're a part of that story. Like, see on my arm, I have this tattoo. It says, "Every person you meet, every single one is looking for their story. There are no exceptions. You become a part of it by how you treat."
Nice. I wish I had some positive things on me.
I had it written like a tattoo, as if somebody grabbed my hand and they wrote that on my arm really fast, as like it was the last thing that they had to tell me.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
so you know what I mean. So, but I love looking at it because it's true, and
Mhm.
I just think that with cannabis, there's so much more to come, and we're just at the beginning. It's just the beginning. So, like I said, dude, I really appreciate you. And, also want to have a little smoke test real quick. And we're going to bring in Crimson to the stage. What up, dude?
Hello.
This is where we have a smoke session as we end the series, since we're all huge smokers. I want to thank you, Crimson, for modding tonight. You've always been a great supporter and a great friend.
You and me
Really
also.
appreciate you. Everybody in the live is wearing a T-shirt of mine. The Brave shoes, our swag shirt, and my Stone Frenchie.
And I
So,
got your sticker right next to me.
and my sticker right on the side of the screen. So
Um,
yeah,
Grownomics,
dude.
I just want to say, Grownomics, thanks for sharing your story tonight. A lot of the stuff you said, me and you have a lot in common. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
share my story one day when I feel the time
Can't
is
hear
right.
you guys.
What?
He can't hear us.
I can't hear.
Come back in.
Yep. He
Can you hear now?
I can't hear you.
no, you broke it.
Hold on.
No
Hello.
technical issues on this end. It's his earbud.
I think it's earbud cracked. Try your phone. Turn off the
Pull your
Bluetooth.
cord out.
Hello.
How about now?
I'm not sure what happened, but I can't hear you guys, and
Can you hear from the phone?
Exit out and then come back in. Use the same link.
No, no. Oh,
And that, everybody, is the wonderful Zach.
oh, he's not cooperating, and he's supposed to be in bed. I'm glad I was able to help. I'm sorry,
No,
Grownomics
dude.
can't hear right now.
Well, good thing it happened at the end of this show, not the beginning.
Yeah. See what happens when you bring me on.
Well,
All right,
you're a
now
big
he exited out.
supporter, so I wanted to.
He's
You're a big
fully out now.
cover
Let's
back.
see if he takes the link to come back in.
It's the same link.
Well, they can all hear me, you, and Grownomics, but he couldn't hear me or Madman. I was the one sitting here going, whee! Woo! No, that was great. Me and him actually got a lot more in common than I thought we did, and I was glad to hear his story. I gotta tell mine as soon as I can. But I got some stuff I'm still going through, so like time's just not right yet.
All right.
Hello. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good.
No rush at all, man. Smoke session, everybody.
God,
This piece was given to me by Glass Flow Art, my boy Kyle, who 9 years ago I shot his wedding.
Nice. Grownomics, I was saying thank you for sharing that because we have a lot in common. And I would love to talk more about it. And eventually I would love to come on here with Madman and share my story. I just waiting for the right time. Still going through stuff. But I'm heating up.
Remember, I am the Mr. Rogers / Steve Harvey of cannabis.
That'll work.
I was actually thinking about using my clothing line rack and then having the Mr. Roger music play as I enter the podcast, and I put on my podcast jacket and I put on my boots. And I'm like, hello, neighbors. So if you see that happening relatively soon, that's gonna.
I think that's an awesome idea.
I like it.
Won't you be my neighbor?
That'll take your breath away.
I like this one because it easily goes right into the mask. If y'all have any questions or want to ask Grownomics anything, now is your time to ask any questions on the show.
I'm just here for the sesh real quick. Madman, I'm gonna go deal with my child, and I'll let you finish this out.
Yeah, we'll be in here for about 10 minutes or less.
Are you good? I really got to go deal with him.
That's fine.
Glad I was able to help out tonight. Glad my boy cooperated with me to allow me to and appreciate you sharing that story, Grownomics. And
oh yeah, dude, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you all soon outside the live.
So, you got questions? Grownomics got answers.
Yes, ask away if you have any. Man, I still using the torch and everything. I gotta get a Puffco.
Puffcos are great. However, I don't always have dabs on me, so I don't get to use mine. Cause see, my thing is once I start doing dabs, I get spoiled, and then I don't want weed anymore because I'm like, weed.
Yeah.
Dabs are so much cleaner.
Yeah.
So that's why my new 4x8, I'm going to do a sea of green to make sure that I have enough because I just love dabs. But what I really love is hash rosin.
Ooh, yes. Hey, I don't know if you've seen this in the background.
Oh, I did the whole time, dude, and I love that. I need to get. Let me get a SmokeBusters thing for here. That's a neon sign for SmokeBusters right there, so it's in the background.
Oh yeah, neon one would be cool.
Yeah, get it red so it goes in between the lights and everything. Let's take it go. Straight to the dirt. That is right. Oh man. Yeah, dude, it is awesome. For those that want to see me, Baltimore, next week we are at NECAN We're going to have a 10 by 20 foot booth set up. If you are in the Baltimore area, make sure you come and see me. We're going to be doing podcasts and interviews. Also, if you haven't been to the website, please sign up. You're missing out on tons of giveaways, swag, a whole bunch of content, and all the new interviews that I just posted. And we got way more coming. And I just threw up like 12 podcasts on YouTube, which we have almost 500 videos in less than 2 years, or almost 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. You got interviews with celebrities, all types of people. But dude, you coming to Virginia? I live in Virginia. I live in Fredericksburg.
Somebody said that in chat.
Yeah, that's so funny. Of course, I'm coming to Virginia. Yeah, when are you gonna smoke that shit?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I was trying to save it for a special day, but I'm so tempted to smoke it.
You do it like right now on the show, or
I don't know.
you should save it for like a special moment.
Yeah, I think once a moment arises, I'll be like, get it.
So, Chicago, I'm coming. Hold on. I'll tell you where I'm going next. So, after Baltimore, May 31st, I'm in Chicago. That's my next stop, right after Baltimore. So, that's May 31st. June 14th, I'm in Vermont. September 6th, I'm in New Jersey, Atlantic City. September 20th, I'm in Grand Rapids. September 27th, I'm in Santa Rosa, California. October 4th, I'm in Hartford, Connecticut. October 25th, I'm in Syracuse, New York. November 2nd, I'm in Mount Dora, Florida. December 3rd, I'm in Las Vegas. December 8th, I'm back at the Cowboy Cup.
Oof, what a road show. Shit.
Oh, it's only going to get better. It only gets better than this. You know what I'm saying? That is funny. You should definitely walk around like that.
Huh?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Just, oh, hey, man.
Doing both sides.
Oh, you need a joint here?
Yeah, dude. We'll smoke that in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I got one.
Huge fucking ass joint. What up, and brother Trillis? What up, Spanish Dre, Ron, Aviator? Let's see here. So yeah, dude, we're about to hit the Discord. If you want to check out Dead by Dawn Genetics Discord, I have my own starting. Plus, we have a forum on the website. Grownomics story will be on the website, so you can interact more, ask questions. I encourage you to try to post photos or videos to really, dive into your story. We just have a lot of good things coming. So if you're not subscribed, you're missing out. If you're not on the website, you're missing out on free giveaways and swag all the time. And if you're not seeing me in person, you're not going to be able to get a T-shirt and a swag bag like Grownomics repping over there, which I don't know if he ever takes that off, but I'm glad he wears it all the time. I need to send you like 7, so you just have like constant.
Yeah, nah, that would be, yeah, definitely. I'll put them to use.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, guys, it's been another fantastic episode, another 2-hour segment. I love how I'm always able to stretch it out to 2 hours. I really like the longer format. Know that not everybody can watch it all the way through, but I really want to take up Crimson just posted Discord. Make sure to join that. And then once mine is ready, I'll invite you to mine. I'm just building out the framework. But anybody that's watching, if you want to come on to my podcast and do what these incredible people have done before me, there's no prerequisite. I just want honesty and I want real. I want people to tell their stories. I want people to find value within themselves. You guys all have light. You all have energy, and that needs to be exposed. So my biggest point is finding people who have incredible stories. So till next time, guys, we'll see you guys very soon.